Hello, everyone. This is Josh Friend, CEO and founder of Accelerate. I have a good friend, former business partner, and just great guy all around, Wint Winters, here today. I'm really excited because I worked with Wint for about a decade and learned a lot from him. And I really want to be able to ask him some questions and have the audience learn from some of the stuff that Wint's doing. How you doing today, Wint?
I'm doing great, Josh. I got to say that part of the excitement and what we had running the business was picking the right people, the right partners. And you absolutely were one of our best leaders. So it was a joy to work with you and all the stuff we're going to talk about. I think you picked that up immediately. You understood where we were going with it. I think the values that we tried to promote were your values. So, and that makes it easy. When you share values like you and I did, it was awesome. So thank you for letting me chat with you.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And, so the story, and I'm going to just give a brief, quick, my version synopsis. I'm going to ask Wint some questions on this to get an idea. People's Bank, I was part of the bank for about 10 years, helped with the mortgage group, helped them really grow that company. That's actually where Accelerate got formed. It had some extraordinary things that People's Bank did. We didn't have customers, we had guests, right? We had guest service, we had the grandma test. We had the lowest cost of funds. We didn't pay people for their checking and savings deposit. There wasn't a give us money and we're going to give you a free toaster. Matter of fact, we were more expensive, but yet people loved giving us their money, right? It was actually at one point there was a problem. We actually asked people to stop giving us so much money, right? So it was, that was a reality of it. And so how, yeah, it's a high class problem. How that all happened, So first let's talk about your background, just to give an idea. So I think this probably gives, you have a beyond being in the banking world, you're a politician and an attorney, and you've used that, how did you use that leadership in the bank?
Well, I tell people sort of laughingly that I had three different jobs in my life, and according to the Gallup poll organization, where they ask people their most respected the professions they most respect, I was in the bottom three: lawyer, politician, and banker. All three of those, and unfortunately, none of those three professions have earned a very big amount of trust from the public. So I was aware of that, and but most of my career was in the law practice until about 2000, when I went into the banking business. So I've kind of understood that, depending on what business you're in, even if it has a bad reputation, then it's still important to be one of the leaders and to do things right. In fact, because so many banks had a bad reputation and earned that bad reputation with poor service, it was actually easier to be among the leaders. And as well, I'm sure we'll talk about. High quality service was our calling card, was our mantra. And so, because so few bankers and mortgage folks were financial people really focused on great quality service, we were able to get toward the top of the league, that class pretty easily.
Yeah, well, I think I remember you discussing that, and just so people listen know, the philosophy that you guys instilled at a certain point was, if we're going to compete, how can we compete best? And it was, wow, if everyone's giving bad service, right? If we give really good service, we stand out. And obviously it feels great to give good service, right? Everyone likes to work for a company, work at an organization that cares about their customers, right? That's a good thing. And so you guys really were able to do that. And that just financially, what did that mean to you? I mean, as far as what interest rates you guys paid on your money, and I know the stats are the cheap, the lowest rates in the industry, and kind of what did that mean financially because of the good cost money to do it, right? To give good service and training, but what did it financially mean to you guys?
Well, if you can give great service and be consistent and genuine about it, then you can make a lot of money. People appreciate really good, high quality service, and they're willing to pay for it. And in the banking, I've always thought there's only two ways to do business, no matter whether you're a lawyer or a car salesman or the mortgage business. That is, you either can focus on value and low cost. That's the Walmart way. I'm a Walmart shopper, but Walmart runs that. They run that hard. Everyday low prices. So they stick to that every single day. They're after efficiency and low prices, and they know that, and they do it well. So the other side of that is to sell with great service quality. Back before retailers all got hammered, Nordstrom had a great reputation for very high service. For example, you could return any item from Nordstrom and without questions asked, no matter what. And people appreciated that. And so they charge more. And so you have to be one or the other. If you get stuck in the middle, you're going to lose. And we knew that we could not, as a smaller bank, we couldn't compete price-wise with Wells Fargo and Bank of America, et cetera. So we had to go in 100% for very, very high service. And so we talked to people about, all of our bankers about the why. That was one of the very important things that we talked to people about when we were all the way from interviewing them through orientation, et cetera. I'm a big believer that people have to know whatever organization they're in or entity, even a family, a church, a nonprofit, a business, they got to know the why. Why does our organization exist? And our why was to bring people financial happiness. We wanted everyone to know in our company that we focused on our guests, on the customers, and that we had to do that by knowing that what we were providing to them, we were selling financial happiness, and we weren't selling low rate. We were selling what was good for people.
That's good. So a couple of things. One is you use the term guest. We're going to talk about that in a second. But one of the things that I want to point out from to people listening and being part of this was the communication. So one of the things I remember things like transparent integrity or transparent integrity, respectful challenge,
Right.
all these different things that were done. And I saw from you, I don't know, maybe it's because you're a politician, how you did it, but you communicated this value chain to everyone. And I think that's something that people listening can understand. Like, not every company does what you've done, which was Wint would come out to all the branches, all the employees, and on a consistent basis, and would put up the chart. Here's the value chain, financial happiness. Here's how we make a living. Here's how we make them. Here's how we make our guests happy. Here's how we make these people happy. And we're trying to make people financially happy. And it really made it easy for people to understand, because you over communicated it. You communicated it a lot, which was good, and it wasn't complicated. A lot of people come out with like these statements that don't make a whole lot of sense, but your statement, truthfully, for anyone working at the bank, the way you judge something, or part of it was what we called the grandma test. And I love the grandma test. I think it's a fantastic thing, and a great way, very simple. The grandma test, like 3 words, can help you understand how to treat a customer. So tell me the grandma test. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. First of all, let me set the stage a little bit. I talked about the fact that we always told people about what was our why. We have a why. Why are we in business? We're in business to provide people financial happiness. And I'll tell you one reason that's important. In a lot of businesses and organizations, people get interviewed, for example, to be a computer technology expert. And you might say, I got a job opening for an IT expert, and their job is going to be to write code for, let's say, selling leads in the mortgage business. And that's what they focus on. Well, we started at the opposite place. and we wanted people to know why we're in business. And I'll tell you a little story that I heard to describe the importance of letting people know the big picture. A guy goes up, he's walking down the street, he sees this construction site, and he sees a guy digging a hole. He's got postal diggers and he's digging a hole. And the guy says, "What are you doing, sir?" And the worker looks up and says, "Can't you see I'm digging a hole? Let me get back to my business." So the guy, he walks down and he sees another guy digging a hole. And he says, "What are you doing?" And the second guy says, "Well, I'm digging a hole so I can put a post in it. Can't you see that's what I'm doing? Why would you ask? I'm busy." And then this guy walks down and sees a third guy doing the same thing, digging a hole. And he says to him, "What are you doing?" And the guy looks up proudly and he says, "I'm so glad you asked. I'm building a cathedral. We're building a house of worship for God. That is so wonderful that's what I do. Can't you see that's what I'm doing?" Well, that third person understood what he was doing in the context of the greater good, the greater world. And so we wanted people to know they're not just writing code. They're not just opening accounts. They're not just underwriting mortgage files. They are bringing financial happiness to people. So it's so sad when people are at work and they don't, when they answer, "Can't you see I'm digging a hole?" or "Can't you see I'm writing code?" or "Can't you see I'm shuffling papers?" That's never going to work. So in order to help teach people that, we knew that we had to have a simple concept of how we wanted our people to treat our customers, our guests, and also treat each other. So we came up with the grandma test. My career before had been in law practice, and I was able to have a practice where we gave great service and so on, and really paid attention to the folks. And we thought we did what's right, unlike a lot of some other lawyers. So I was talking to one of the other leaders when I first started, and I was telling him, I'm not sure I'm going to like this banking business. It's just money changing, and I don't know about that, but I'd sure like to see if we can run this with a focus on really, really great service and doing the right thing. And so this, excuse me, this woman who was just the most wonderful woman, and you know her, Josh Ruth.
Yep.
She said, "Let me think about it." And she came back the next day and she said, "Wint, I thought about it and a light came on. You're just talking about teaching people to treat each other and treat our customers, our guests, like he or she was our respected grandmother. And that's really simple." And I said, "Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. It's the grandma test." And that is, we want all of our people to treat all our guests, all our customers, and each other like the other person was your grandma. What's that mean? Well, if you know and love your grandma, if it's raining outside and grandma's going to walk to the car in the rain, you walk out with her with an umbrella, don't you? When grandma says, "Gee whiz, I think I want to open an account," if it's your grandma that you're waiting on, you're going to tell her which account is the best for her, which is the cheapest one that fits her needs, not the account that's going to make the bank the most money. So if you just ask yourself, how would I treat this customer or my fellow banker like he or she was my grandma? It's easy. And for those people who never knew a grandparent, or who might have had a grandparent that wasn't very nice, well, it doesn't work very well. But most grandparents are very loved, and so that's the grandma test. And every day I would ask people, "Are you taking care of grandma today?" And they knew what that meant, and they loved it. They loved being able to be judged not on how many accounts they opened, for example, or the amount of growth in loans, but how'd you treat grandma? And of course, we spent quite a bit of money on testing that, on surveying our guests and seeing to it that they felt like we were treating them like grandma. So it was our mantra. Besides the fact that we want to teach everybody that we're in the business of financial happiness, how we get there is through the grandma test.
I love it. I mean, to give an example, as you're saying, talking about the grandma test to people listening, that meant someone came into one of our, it's funny. I'm not involved with, obviously, People's Bank, for those listening, sold about 2 years ago. Sold to Northern Bank Holding Company. It's now part of a publicly traded company and a public bank. But I still use the term guest.
Great.
And I'm still using that term because it's so ingrained. And I was about to say one of your bank branches, but really we called them stores.
Right.
It wasn't a bank branch, it was a store. So this was a philosophy that was very thought out. And what's interesting is it doesn't actually cost money to think that out or to write that on paper. Now it takes time, money, and commitment to implement it. You're not buying a new system to come in and help you. It's your internal team. But further the grandma test, an example, if grandma was in our store and asked us for a car loan, we weren't, People's Bank was not a great lender for car. That wasn't the business we were in. Right. And so I think we had potentially, we could give you one, but it's really not competitive. Right across the street, they got great rates. Let me talk to Sally over there and get the car loan from Sally, because that's just we're not good with that. And we would refer people to another institution because that was the best thing. And yet,
and that's a perfect example of the grandma test. If your grandma said, gee whiz, I want to borrow money from you and your employer to go buy a car, you got two choices. You could go ahead and take her application and maybe loan money for a car, but all the time you would know that if I was doing it, I'd go across the street to the dealership because they're going to give me a lower rate. And we would always tell people, don't you dare sell grandma a car loan, unless the only place they can get it for the lowest rate is with us. First, think, where would I send my grandma? And the answer is, I'd send her across the street. Then you better do that. Don't be selling grandma something that she doesn't need. One of the other things we used to say is we want to sell our guests 0% of the products that just make us money. We want to sell our guests 100% of the products they need from us. So we want to really focus on that. And back to your point, when what you're doing is trying to inoculate people with the culture of the why, we're in business to sell financial happiness and to teach the grandma test. Wording and terminology is very, very important. And so we worked hard at identifying other words that set us apart, that made us unusual. We decided that we told people we were the only bank in the world that didn't have any customers. We had guests, and with a capital G. Every one of our people who do business with us is a guest. And that is symbolic also of the grandma test. If you have somebody come into your house that you've invited in, where you're going to treat them nicely. You're going to sit them down, ask them if they want some water, some coffee, a cookie. You treat people like guests. Another word we said we were the only bank that had no employees. We had bankers with a capital B, and bankers are professionals. So there weren't any employees. We wanted to instill. My father was a Marine, and he always talked about it in terms of creating esprit de corps. We want people to understand the esprit de corps of our company, and then we also got rid of the word branch in terms of the context of the buildings, and we changed that word to stores. We have stores. This is where people come to shop, and we want to make them comfortable, etc. And the final thing was our slogan.
I was going to ask about that. You mentioned it. Unusual.
Yeah, our slogan was banking unusual. Now, what's that mean? Well, it could mean what's unusual about us. Well, it could mean that we're unusual because we gave bad service. But we wanted to let people know, and this is part of our graphics. This was unusual, Bill. We wanted to let people know that we were, in fact, unusual. So banking unusual was our slogan because we wanted to let people know, essentially, if you like banking where you are, if you like banking as usual, you probably won't like us. You don't need to come change to us. But so many people really didn't like where they were. They didn't like their bank. And so if we said to people, do you like banking the usual way? Most people would say, no, I don't. So saying that we were unusual was a little bit of an attack on the industry itself by saying, well, we know that the industry as usual isn't very good.
Yeah.
And come to us because we're unusual. And then we had to prove what we were unusual about. We were unusual about the grandma test. We were unusual about calling people guests and treating them like guests and giving them cookies. And by the way, that was another one of our messages in all of our bank branches. We baked cookies every day.
I was going to describe that, Wint, because I know what it is when you're saying like the unusual. I walked into a store. What did your store look like? And that whole experience for a guest. And you just started with the cookies baking. Describe that experience.
Well, first of all, we wanted, like banking unusual, we wanted people when they walked into our store to think, I wonder, is this a bank? And kind of wonder, what was this? Well, what are the things that people kind of don't like about banks? Well, they walk in and first of all, there's a line of people with ropes, and we have rope lines. And then they all they do is stand up, and they stand up these teller lines, and they talk to somebody behind the teller line, and then they leave. Well, we got rid of teller lines. We had when they walked into our stores, first thing they saw was a greeter station, a concierge station, and we had somebody there to greet them and ask what was going on and how can we help you and offer them a cookie. So not only did we want the whole visual to be totally different, where they were not looking at teller lines, we had big fun. We burned the ropes that created the lines that everybody hates. But we also, besides the visual differences, we wanted to think about the other senses. And so not only did we want the eyes to look at something different, we wanted the nose, the sense of smell to be different. And so the cookies were more important for the sense of smell that they created. And what do we think of when we smell fresh cookies? Well, we think of
Grandma. Yeah.
And this is home. This is a great place to be. So we tried to focus on all those things that were usual to banking, and then get rid of them. So, excuse me, it worked really well. I, for a while, had to fight putting on weight when we
cookie stations.
The cookies, but it was a lot of fun to do. People, our bankers understood it. That's again another way for us to communicate to our bankers the expectations that we had of them, because we did have very high expectations in terms of service. But the terminology, the sense of the visuals, the sense of smell, all went to try to create and underscore the grandma test.
I think the experience of the store and everything. What as you're describing this, there's a lot of valuable things that people can learn from you, and just what you guys did at People's Bank. And like I've said, working with you for 10 years, I learned a lot from you.
Well, thank you.
And in that, your attention to detail, as you're saying, we burned the teller lines. Like the fact that you guys went through a thought and it had an intention to kind of go above and beyond and say, hey, this is how important this is, that we're different, that we're going to actually burn the teller lines, that's some type of symbolic thing. That's a culture thing. And I don't know if people realize that is what, when you as a leader are trying to create culture within an organization, those are the things that actually make a difference. And people don't understand. I always say it's the last 5 or 10% of things. You go to a good restaurant, you go to a great restaurant, it's like 5% more effort to go from good to great, or it's a little bit more, thought, a little more intention. I want to think about who thinks about their people coming into their bank branch and wanting to experience the sense of smell. That's not it is unusual. And, I learned a lot from that. And, the other thing to kind of just to talk about, which is you did all of this in one of the worst times to be that from you and I being alive, the worst times to be in the banking industry and have something to do with mortgage, right? When, you took a bank, that you guys, the family had for a long time. As the market changed and banks got hammered, you were able to really shore up the bank, get people rallied behind. That's when, myself and a few other, groups joined with you and really help get smart people to rally to build this bank back up. And then you've had a successful exit. You've sold the bank. How was it just as a leader? Right now, most people in the mortgage industry are making lots of money. So it's they're not thinking about this, but when it does change, what was the sacrifice, or how was it as a leader to keep that culture instilled while still trying to either, hey, I got to cut some cost, or I have to make some changes that people may not like, and hey, sorry, no bonus this year, or whatever it may have been. What was what, because you did it very effectively. And, I was always, thought a lot of that. So what was it that you found that was helpful for you?
Well, the phrase that I used a lot was transparent integrity. You're referring to basically the Great Recession that started in 2008 and really persisted through 8 and 9 and 10. And really, the country didn't start to come out of it till 11, 12, 13. But my father in the regular banking business was very much a believer in lending money out. Loans helped people with their own personal life, their own business life. And so banks really exist to loan money out to the community. So we had a lot of loans. And when the Great Recession hit, excuse me, we were hammered. Not by loans that were made bad, not by risky loans, not by loans made outside of our communities, but just reflecting how bad things were. So we were losing literally millions of dollars on an annual basis. And so, first of all, the temptation was, let's cut back on all this expense. Let's start laying people off. Let's get rid of. Let's go back to the teller lines. Let's get rid of the cookies. Forget this whole thing about financial happiness. We got to sell stuff. Well, the answer to that was absolutely not. In fact, we doubled down on that. We wanted to let people know that even though we had some real challenges, and in fact, we were on a list of. And there were quite a few banks. There were hundreds of banks on this list in the country, but we were on a public list of troubled banks. And so one of the things you worry about is how do we make sure that our guests, excuse me, how do we make sure that our guests will stay with us and not leave, not close their accounts, not go somewhere else, because they can go down the street to another bank that wasn't on the troubled bank list. And we knew that we could not abandon our basic philosophy of serving financial happiness and the grandma test, et cetera, et cetera. So, and we also not only knew we couldn't lose our guests, we couldn't lose our bankers. And if you're a banker working for a company that's under financial stress, and is publicly known as a stressed bank, well, a lot of people would say, well, I'm going to look for a job somewhere else. And so we knew we had to keep not only our guests, but our bankers. And so the only way I knew to do that was to be very transparent with all our people. So I spent quite a bit of time talking to people and starting out in discussing the status of the bank with a very simple statement. We're in challenging times. These times are very difficult. We're going to survive these times, but we need your help. And so first of all, so we showed them the amount of profit that we had lost, the amount of capital that we lost, the number of bad banks. We were very upfront about the fact that, yes, we and hundreds of other banks are on these troubled bank lists. But we got a plan. We're going to stick together. We're going to do it with continuing our focus on the grandma test. We're going to do it with integrity. We're not going to lie to people. And the simple fact of it is, Josh, we all know that we don't want people to lie to us. We want to know the truth. And so opening up to people is very important. And you have to have the integrity once you open up to let them know everything. So I would send out emails every month. Here's what happened. We lost this much money this month. We lost more than we did the month before, and some, as time went on, we were making more money. And the final thing is, it's important for leaders to have humility. I think probably the most underrated virtue or value for business leaders is humility. To admit when things are not going well, to acknowledge when you have problems, to admit if you made mistakes. People sense that anyway. If they know that even if you're trying to cover up your problems, that's not going to work. But so creating this world where we as leaders are willing to acknowledge that we may have made mistakes in the past, but here's the facts, and then of course building a plan. People like to be a part of a team. They like challenges. You have to show them the steps about how to get there. But when you look around and you see people next to you, to your right, to your left, behind you, they're all marching toward the same goal, even though it's difficult. If they have a roadmap and the leaders have been able to say that, well, we may have made some mistakes and have that humility, it really creates a great esprit de corps.
Well, I think what you said, I really liked, which is the transparent integrity, which you did disclose what was going on. And I think you point out something that leaders need to know. Employees know when something's going on, right? Like if the business isn't good and you're not addressing with the company, hey, here's what's going on, and you're just acting like everything's normal, they lose trust in you. Because if
they know it too. You got to be. There's no actor good enough.
That's right.
To hide that stuff from people.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And so by telling people, here's what the issue is, it means, all right, so we're all realists. I have trust in Wint that he's not, delusional. And there's a plan in place, right? Here's what the plan looks like, and here's how I can affect the plan, and here's, the part I can play in the plan, I think is what really, really rallied people. And, I learned a lot through that, just out of leadership. We've talked about this when we're going to probably do this again. And I want to get some more of the grandma test down, because I think it's something that lenders out there, anyone can use. I already told you this, and Ruth, I told Ruth this as well. Ruth Stevenson, the one that came up with the grandma test thing. Listen, I'm going to, you guys didn't trademark it. I'm going to use it again. So don't worry, the grandma test won't die.
Good.
It's staying alive in business, because I think it's It's a very easy way to say great service. So kind of to sum up Wint and what you're talking about is, I'm going to use unusual. Right? I think that's that's exactly what it was. You came in to the banking place and said, how do we do this different? And you were smart. You took market advantage. All right, well, number one, everyone doesn't like banks. So if people don't like banks, that means that if we're just marginally better than everyone else or really better than everyone else, we stand out. People, like you notice that bank versus another bank. I do when I go to a teller, and sometimes I'm making a deposit at a bank, and they'll hand me back and say, here, and they'll make me write down my account number and everything on the deposit slip to hand back to them. I don't like that. It's like, you have my information, you're in the computer. Can you just do this for me? I notice a difference. People notice those little bits of differences that, services provide. So lenders should grab onto that, to think about its service. My philosophy was, we get paid in the mortgage industry, you get paid for service. Give a lot of service, you get paid a lot. Give a little bit of service, you get paid a little. Right. And I'm always been, Accelerated is a high service model company as well. Our business is, the why is behind me. We help lenders close more loans. That's why we're in business, is to help lenders close more loans. So yes, we have software we sell. We have a technology platform that does it, but we're not selling you technology. We're selling you a solution that gives you more loans, makes you more efficient, helps your people. And then to extend that, me, as I've had lots of loan officers work for me and processor. I've been in this industry for a long time. I want to make their lives better.
Right.
How can we improve the loan officer's life so they're more efficient, they make more money? How can we help each loan officer close 2 more loans per month so maybe they can go on that vacation, send their kids to college, right? And then for those lenders out there, when I was a lender, I think what you said was really spot on. You're helping people. Hey guys, I tell the team, do you realize, this person you're saving $190 a month for, that's impactful to them. That means their kids are that means their kids are being able to play travel basketball that year, or they're able to take that vacation, or they have money put aside so they can put new tires on their car. These are really, impactful things. And when we understand, that's why I like the mortgage industry, is we help people with the American dream, home ownership.
Yeah.
Right? It's so important.
Well, and your philosophy, Josh, is perfectly aligned with what we were doing. One of the things that I said to people, if you come to work here, then you need to expect that maybe not every day, but when you drive home from work, that you feel good because you've helped somebody provide more financial security. And that might mean in the mortgage business that you have a choice between selling them 2 different types of loans. One of them, they qualify for both. One of them might make your company a little more money. You might get a little more bonus yourself out of it. But is that right for the guest? And if the answer is no, then you better not sell that higher price loan. Figure if you can sell a loan that maybe has VA insurance and you might make a little less money, but it's better for the guest, then you better be selling that. And we wanted people to drive home at night and think about those small things they did to help make somebody else make their life a little bit better. The final thing I want to toss out there is we also had a phrase called respectful challenge.
Yes.
As you're working with somebody, you might be brainstorming how to solve a problem, and somebody like you or like me, we may have tossed out, well, here's my suggestion, here's what I think we need to do. What do you all think? And the last thing as leaders that we want is silence after that. We want people to speak up. We want people to have the confidence that they can say no to power. And so we told people, we want to hear your challenge. If you think that Winter is wrong about something, or he's off base on something, or the Josh friend isn't getting it right, then we expect you to speak up. And if you don't, you're violating your oath to your fellow employees. So now challenge, be respectful about it. Don't be mean about it. Don't be angry about it. Be respectful about it, and articulate the better way you think things should be done. And by the way, after that discussion, you may not win. Your point of view may not be adopted. If that's the case, then fine. Accept it. Accept the fact that you respectfully challenge, and the company is going to be so much better by having those people engaged. So you have to give folks the confidence that they can say no to power or say something different and not worry about getting fired.
I think that last part, what is the key of how you made that successful within the organization, is you letting people know that they can challenge without getting fired. Matter of fact, letting people know you accept the challenge, you welcome the challenge, because the truth of it is, me as a leader, my philosophy has always been, if someone works for me and comes to me or if I say, hey, we're going to do this thing, and if you don't think it's a thing we should do, you better tell me. Like, you better say, no, Josh, you're missing it. Like that, you're making the bad decision. I have some books behind me, and there's a couple there that I've read that are important. One was Good to Great, Built to Last. The other one was How to Be a Great CEO. It's a very simple book. And I read it earlier in my career, 17 years ago when I started my first company. And I read it, and one of the chapters was basically, your managers and people should not let you be wrong. So you want them, hey, if I make a bad decision, you need to challenge me. You need to tell me it's a bad decision. I remember early in my career, because I'm strong-willed, and I allow people to give me a respectful challenge. And me, Wint, I will passionately argue my point, but that doesn't mean I won't respect someone else's point. But so sometimes people can take that as I'm not as approachable early in my career, because I would be very direct. So no, I am. Just know that if you come to me, I'm going to be passionate about my point of view, and you likewise. And I actually gave my managers a red card. What I said was, if I make a decision once a quarter, if I make a decision and you challenge me and I say, that's just the way it is, go pound sand, we're going to do it this way or the highway. Once a quarter, you can come back in with a red card and put it on my desk and say, hey, you told me never bring this up again. This is the one I want to bring up. Here's the red card. You said, don't bring it up, but we're bringing it up. And I let people, it didn't happen a lot, but it gave someone the ability to know, what, if I'm going to get stuck down, the real ones, I can come in there and I can throw the red card out there and we can have that conversation. That's something I use early on to help that, because you have to have, if you have smart people in your organization, and let's all think and hope that we do, right? I know we have very smart people in this organization, and bank had very smart people. You want people to have their opinions, because I'm not always right. I mean, no one's always right. The best person who's leading a company is right 95% of the time, 90% of the time. That still means 1 in 10 times they can make a better decision, right? So there's
on that 1 in 10 times, I toss something else out, and that's the concept of the 10-headed brain. And what's that mean? Well, if you're in a meeting, and a lot of leaders think that if they're in a meeting of 10 people, then they have to be big. They have to be competent. They have to be the one in charge. They have to be tossing out the ideas. They got to be the one who wins at the end. Well, if you have humility, you don't get caught in those traps. But my dad always said, "What's better, a person with one brain?" What's better, a person with one brain or a person that has 10 brains? And a person that has 10 brains is the person that's in a meeting with 10 people, and he or she encourages all 10 of those people to bring their thought processes and respectful challenges. So I want decisions made by that person that has 10 brains, and the way to do that, and not just one. And frankly, if you think about it, it's kind of for those people who think that they're going to rely on their boss for great ideas. Well, that's not fair to the boss, because no boss is that smart. It's so I always like to tell people, please respectfully challenge the boss. You're not doing your job. If you assume that the boss has all the answers, you're wrong. That's mean to the boss. So be open, be confident, be ready to challenge, be respectful about it. That's how you make a better company, is having 10 brains make the decision, not just one.
I like that. That's good. And I saw this stuff in action, and I saw you lead the bank. I, saw you help us grow the bank and, obviously have a successful exit. So these are all really good bits of wisdom. I really appreciate you sharing this with us. I'm going to probably do this again with you at some point, because there is a lot of the story that I don't, that you guys can tell that really can be impactful for our lenders and just for businesses in general and leadership, right? You were a great leader. You led a bank through a time that was during the Great Recession. It was a challenging time, and you can brag. You grew the bank. You grew the bank. You made it more profitable. You made it more valuable. You made all the shareholders more money, and that was through a time that was difficult, right? It took a lot of work, took a lot of effort, but you were able to do that, and I really had a lot of respect. And just for me, learning from you and working with you and partnering with you at the bank, I really appreciate that and appreciate your time. And
well, Josh, let me just say one final thing. I appreciate you. It's not everybody that could accept the concept that they were bankers and that we didn't have any customers, we had guests. You completely bought into it from the beginning. I think you and I have the same general values. I remember, for example, going to your branch, going into your building, and you had put up on the walls the word guest, the word grandma test.
Yep.
I thought, man, that is so cool. I've got a partner here. I've got somebody who believes in the same thing. So it was a joy to do business with you, and you made me a lot better leader. And of course, we got out of this place where we were a publicly troubled bank and became a very highly rated bank. And that's frankly because people like you had the faith to join us at a time where we still were fragile. And I appreciate the heck out of you and the other folks who joined us and fought that battle and won it.
I appreciate that, Wint. No, I thank you. It was a good experience. I learned a lot. So, Wint, thanks for your time, and everyone else out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.